I got some books to talk about today. I read most of these in November. I was gonna make a video back then, but school and finals all happened at once, so I decided to push it off until now, late December. But anyways, I got 4 books to talk about today. The City and Its Uncertain Walls, written by Haruki Murakami. This is my 7th Murakami book and his most recent release. The story starts with the relationship of a young couple in Tokyo. She tells some stories about this weird, freaky town that is surrounded by walls, and in this town she says that the real version of her lives. She then just disappears out of nowhere, and that's where the main story begins. I don't want to say anything else about the story because I don't want to spoil it. I really feel like you should go into Murakami books knowing as little about them as possible. The inside sleeve of this book tells you way too much information before reading it. Kind of spoils a lot of stuff that I think would be better just if you read them and you experienced them for yourself for the first time. I really don't get why they decided to put that much info in the sleeve, but probably to hook people in and get them to keep reading the thing. Before I talk about the book itself, I want to talk about something that's kind of glaring. This book cover. I don't know why they gave us this book cover in the United States. I mean, to be fair, when you remove the actual book cover, when you remove this and then you just have this thing, it does look better. I think this is better than this. Not that much better, but it is better. The book cover just sucks, especially compared to the UK cover, the Korean cover, the Japanese cover. I don't know why they gave us such an ugly version of it in the United States. When the book first came out, I was originally going to order the UK version, but then when I added it to cart and I saw how much the shipping price was, it was like $28. I was like, you know what, I'll just swallow the bullet and get this cover. It sucks, but I'm not going to pay $30 to get something that's better. And I also did pick up the book just a couple days after it released here. Technically, the book didn't just come out. The original release was in April of 2023, but it just now got translated to English in November of 2024. But anyways, how is the book? The book is pretty good. It's broken up into 3 distinct parts. The hardcover edition, which is the edition that I bought, and I hate hardcover books. I just bought it because this was like $10 cheaper than the softcover, which is weird. It's usually the opposite, but for some reason Amazon was selling these cheaper, so I picked up the hardcover edition. This version is 430 pages and the softcover is about 700 pages. I was not really a big fan of the main character in this one. I felt like he didn't really have anything memorable to him, especially when compared to Haruki Murakami's other main characters. He's not a bad character or anything, just kind of unremarkable. Nothing really there for me to latch onto and remember. Not that that matters, the side characters are usually my favorite characters in all Murakami books, and this one had some really good ones, who I'm not going to spoil for you. I just wish he went into some of their backstories. Like there's a character that he meets later in the story. I won't say too much about her, but she works in this coffee shop and there's some interesting background on her that he tells us, but he doesn't really give us a lot. He just kind of gives us like a sample of her background, but I wish he did go into her stories a little bit more. Same with this younger character that's in the book, this younger kid. But like all Murakami books, the characters are kind of left for interpretation. You kind of guess what they were doing before and then after the story. He doesn't really tell you, hey, this guy will, be this guy will do this. I did like the setting of the book, especially in part 2, when the main character is hanging out in this kind of mountain town on the countryside of Japan. I really like how Murakami describes nature and how he describes the main character walking through this little town and all the little things like the river. I don't know, Murakami does a really good job with describing mundane things like that, whether it's his characters cooking some interesting meal or them just walking around. This is what would be a boring place, but the way Murakami writes it just makes it really interesting. And it really sucks you in the way he writes. I also like how the city with the high walls is described in this, but I do think it was done better in Hard-Boiled Wonderland and The End of the World. If you did not know, this story that's in here is kind of a retelling of this story. Its own separate thing. These 2 books had nothing to do with each other outside of the town with the high walls. I mean, I don't know what else to call it, so I'll just call it that. I definitely think you can appreciate this book more if you read this one first. It's interesting to see how Murakami reworked this town and how he fit this different character into that. Because the way that the town works in this one, the way that the town works in this one, their core are very different. They're similar in a way where I'm like, yeah, read this first. Both books share the parallel story of having a shadow and this weird town and all that stuff. I did also do a review of this book. If you're interested, it's also on my channel. I did enjoy Hard-Boiled Wonderland more than The City and Its Uncertain Walls, just because I feel like the character in that one was better. I liked him more, and the side characters were also better, and I felt like the setting in that one was just more interesting. I mean, I won't spoil anything for you. That one is more, I guess, action-packed. This one is kind of more laid back, and I don't want to say boring, but less stuff happens into it, and the stuff that does happen is not really super consequential. I would read both, but if you had to only choose one, I would pick Hard-Boiled Wonderland, but both are good. They did also just recently release a new translation of Hard-Boiled Wonderland that I do want to give a read at some point. Overall, I did like this book. It's not my favorite Murakami book, but it's definitely one that I'm happy to have in my collection. It's also way easier to recommend this book than other Murakami books just because there's less weird, freaky sex stuff. In Murakami books, he's kind of known for having a lot of weird stuff, whether that's his characters kind of interacting in really weird ways to younger characters, or just describing sex scenes really vividly. This one doesn't have any of that stuff. This is pretty tame. And honestly, I think this is a really good starting point for people if they've never read Haruki Murakami before. It has some of his magical realism, but it's not to the extreme. It has decent characters and it has a lot of Murakami tropes. If you've read Hard Boiled Wonderland and want to revisit the town, this book is a great way to do it. And if you enjoy other Murakami books, you're gonna like this one as well. But anyways, go read it. Form your own opinion and make sure don't read the description. It has so many spoilers. The stuff that I told you in the beginning is pretty much all you need to know about the story. Just go read it. Go into as blind as you can. And I would say that with pretty much all Murakami books. Go in as blind as you can and you will enjoy them way more. They're great books. And you can always return it on Amazon and write a review and blame me. Sputnik Sweetheart, written by Haruki Murakami in 1999. This is my 6th Haruki Murakami book, and yes, I did put the other one before this one. I know that I said that was my 7th book, but I wanted to put that as my first review because, it's the most recent book of his. This one is about a dude named Kei who is in love with his best friend Samir, who is obsessed with an older woman. Samir then disappears from an island in Greece, and Kei is tasked with finding her. That's pretty much all I can tell you about the book without spoiling it. It's a very short book. It's only 200 pages, so you can get this done within a day or two. You can probably get it done within one sitting, honestly, if you're really dedicated enough. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is definitely my least favorite Murakami book that I've read so far. It's not a bad book. There are a couple of scenes that I really liked. Like there is this scene, a character is on a Ferris wheel, and the way that Murakami describes a specific part of that is done really good. It's really well done. I also loved how Murakami described Greece in this. It makes me want to buy a ticket and maybe go out there this summer if I have the chance. And I also read this book right before starting the Iliad, so I had that description of Greece in my mind while I'm currently reading that. If I'm Greece, I would put this on my tourism board or something. The island seems cool. I would love to visit one day. I hated the ending to this one. I feel like the ending, it left a bad taste in my mouth. I was just like, when I finished, I was like, really? That's it? I felt like the book was really rushed and the characters were not really fleshed out. The book kind of just ends abruptly. I definitely think you could have gave this another 100 or even 200 more pages to really explore this story. At its core, it's not a bad story, but I just feel like it was rushed, and I'm also not really a big fan of love triangle tropes. If that's your thing, maybe you'll like this, but for me personally, I was like, not my thing. I don't really care about that specific story type. He does do the mystical realism a lot in this book, and I did like the scene, but it just kind of felt pointless, to be honest. I remember reading it and I was like, what was the point of that? I know a lot of people like this book, but personally for me, it's just not for me. You can look at other reviews and you can read the back of the book for this one. And if it sounds interesting to you, then go read it. But for me, I wouldn't really recommend it. It's just kind of a skip for me. There's way better Murakami books than this. Nothing to Envy, written by Barbara Dimick in 2009. This book was incredible, man. I listened to it on Audible. It was free with a subscription, and it was a book that I was already planning on buying. So when I saw that it was free, I just, I downloaded it immediately. The book takes place from the late 80s to the early 2000s, and it follows the real story of several North Korean defectors who escaped the country in the 90s. North Korea has always been somewhere that's really interesting to me. It's such a weird spot. It's like stuck in time. They have these weird ghost cities, a leader who wants to be worshipped as a god, and so many strange rules. There's an Instagram account that I follow that posts North Korean propaganda, like what they want to show the world. And it's just fascinating, man. The way that they want to show their society and the way that is described in the book, it's like polar opposites, right? The propaganda is like, oh, everybody's happy, they're smiling, they have that music video. Yeah, we love the leader. But then you read these books, like, holy shit, man, their lives are awful. And the author goes into some of these weird rules that they have there. One of the rules they have is that you have to have a clean portrait of the Kim family. You have to clean this portrait every single day. And the portrait is also issued by the government. So you have a government-issued Kim family photo. And he was diverted from schools and houses to warm up special prayer buildings that house statues of the Kim squad. I really loved listening to what the average life of a person in North Korea was. This is crazy. Like a lot of the people in the book describe some of the stuff they saw while growing up there, and they saw some messed up stuff, man. People dying from starvation, people snitching on neighbors, people being abused for nothing. For literally nothing. And the book also goes into their lives after they defect from North Korea and how they kind of adjust to being in South Korea. They went from a city that has no power to Seoul, right? This crazy futuristic city. I can pretty much recommend this book to anybody, especially if you're someone who likes history like me. This book, it really shows you this interesting perspective that we never really get to see the lives of these people, how they truly live. And if that's something that interests you, I would pick up this book. I also want to try finding some more books on North Korea at some point. It's so weird, man. It's such a weird place. And maybe one day I'll even get to visit, who knows. The War of Art, written by Steven Pressfield in 2002. Not really much to say about this one. It's a little self-help book that I really enjoyed reading. The author focuses on this idea of resistance and how it stops you from doing all the cool, like artsy stuff that you want to do in life, whether that's writing a book, making a YouTube video, painting, stuff like that, essentially. The book really helped motivate me to continue making YouTube videos, something that's kind of hard for me to do because the editing just takes forever, writing the scripts, it takes forever. The book really helped me contextualize why I even enjoy doing this. It's something that I enjoy doing. I do it even if I get one view, right? Even if I get, one subscriber, I'm gonna still do it because I like to do it. And this book really delves into that idea of doing stuff because you love to do it and making sure to avoid resistance. So if you have something like that in your life, or if you feel like you have an obstacle in doing something creative, I would recommend this book for you. Definitely. Like, this book is great for anyone who's in the creative space, whether that's, like I said earlier, whatever that is. This book is great for that. My only real problem with the book is that it's really short and it's kind of expensive for what it is. I got it on Audible and it was 1 credit. And 1 credit for a 2-hour book is kind of insane, right? It's very short. And I looked it up on Amazon because I was curious how much it cost. It was almost $20. Almost $20 for a book that you can get done within like an hour or two is insane. I'm sorry. I don't know what my boy Steven is doing. I don't know how much money he's making, but these are too much. If you have a library next to you that has this book, go there, sit down for an hour or two, read it, and then return it. I would not spend $20 on this unless you're really into this kind of self-help book, but go to a library. I do plan on reading other Pressfield books. I know he has a couple other books that are similar to this, so when I get the chance, I'll read them. They're so short and then they're expensive. I feel like he should condense all his books into one thing and then sell that for $30, $20, something like that, but whatever. Good book. Thank you for watching the video. If you like this video, go check some of my travel videos. Right now, I'm currently going to be working on a backpacking video. I'm going to be gone for about a month on a trip. I'll be backpacking Morocco and then also Europe. Well, the video will be focused on me traveling to about 10 countries. So if you're interested, look out for that in around February. So I won't be posting anything from now until then. But yeah, anyways, if you like the video, like it. And if you have any book recommendations for me or you disagree with what I said, please let me know in the comments. So, you don't have to agree with everything I said. I'm not infallible. I also do have more book reviews if you're curious on those. They're all in this similar style. But anyways, thank you again for watching. Have a good one.
Don't forget to subscribe.